Hey everyone, I have a couple of announcements to make. First, you guys are so great. Majority of you have shown an interest in communicating with me, which still astounds me. So I've made a Discord so that you can communicate with everyone in the Ronin clan, as well as myself. I'll put a link to the Discord in the description below. And lastly, I'm going to be starting a subscriber's choice. I've had a lot of requests for what ifs, and a lot of them are very interesting concepts. So here's how it will work. I'll look through to see if I can find the ones that interest me the most, and then I'll pick the 4 that I find the most interesting, and I'm going to set up a poll. The one with the most votes will be the one that gets made. Also, you have to be subscribed. It's only fair that you subscribe. That's all I ask. Anyway, thanks for the support. Now, on to part 5 of What If Ash won the Indigo League. Last time, we saw Ash challenge the Orange crew and earning all 4 badges, and moving on to the Pomelo gym, where he challenged Drake, the undefeated gym leader. Everything was going well for Ash in the first half, heading into the second half with a 5-3 lead. Ash quickly lost his advantage and ended up losing when Charizard was his only choice and wouldn't listen. As a result, it fell in battle to Drake's Dragonite. Now, we pick back up in the direct aftermath. Ash is standing there, in shock, motionless. He can't believe he lost. Not until Misty and Tracy call out to him does he even think to recall Charizard. Ash turns to Misty and Tracy. He hands them all of his Pokeballs and tells them to take them to the Pokemon Center, and then takes off before they can say anything. Drake sees this, but does nothing. Several hours pass, but Misty and Tracy haven't seen Ash or heard from him. They took his Pokemon to the Pokemon Center, like he requested. Now they are just waiting. Pikachu is also worried, but it doesn't stick around. The first chance it gets, it leaves the Pokemon Center to go look for Ash. It is now nighttime. On the other side of the island, in a part underdeveloped, sits Ash, holding the GS ball and looking into the sky. He is thinking, is this the end to his Pokemon journey? How could he even think of competing in the Indigo League with his poor performance here? This is the first battle Ash has ever had that he couldn't re-challenge for if he lost. So this is it. He's the Orange Island loser. He practically skated by in all of his gym battles to get here with luck. And sure enough, his first real opponent, he cracks. Then someone asks him, "Hey Ash, can I join you?" Ash turns, and it's Drake. Ash is in one of his many training areas on the island. What precedes is a long conversation about Ash's internal struggles, and Drake telling Ash he is a good trainer, and explaining that in the world of Pokemon, there is always hardships and triumphs. Drake tells Ash about how his family, the Dragon Clan, specialize in Dragon types, and that Dragonite used to be a lot like his Charizard, but over time, they came to respect each other. Then, Pikachu finds Ash, and after some much soul-searching, and they head back to the Pokemon Center, where Misty and Tracy scold Ash, and he apologizes for worrying them. The next morning, the trio get ready to head off, but not before some final words from Drake. He tells Ash to remember he and his Pokemon need to be one, then states that there are many parts to the power of one, as the trio sets off from the Pomelo Island towards the Kanto region. Next are the events of Charizard Chills. In this episode, we see Ash meet a young trainer and his Poliwrath. After Pikachu loses to it, Ash gets frustrated and sends in Charizard. Now, Charizard has been brewing from his loss with Dragonite, and it is ready to battle, but still won't listen to Ash, which results in it getting frozen by an ice beam. The trainer tells Ash that he was expecting more. He tells Ash that he came from the Pomelo gym and Drake spoke very highly of him, and that he was a trainer with a lot of power, but can see he was wrong. Then he leaves, leaving the island. The rest of the events play out the same over the night, with Ash just shocking the Charizard, rubbing it, trying to warm it up, and Charizard just listening. But the next morning comes, and the trainer, unimpressed with Ash, has moved on, so there is no rematch, and the trio moves on to their next adventure. Next, we're sailing in to Shamoody Island in the events of the second Pokemon movie, The Power of One. The events here are all the same, but with two key differences. One, Ash has Muck, which doesn't really affect anything, as Muck just replaced Snorlax, and Snorlax didn't do anything in the movie besides almost sink the boat. What does matter is Kingler, since it replaced Bulbasaur. It can help with freeing Moltres, as Bulbasaur did, but since Bulbasaur isn't here, Ash isn't exactly going to be able to make a Pokemon bobsled team. Could you just imagine Kingler walking sideways, trying to pull the sled at the same pace as a Wartortle and a Charizard? And we all know that Ash will not hook up Pikachu to pull him. Looking at his options, realizing that he needs help, Ash sends out Charizard. He turns to Charizard, and he tells it he knows that it doesn't trust him, and he can't blame him. After all the things that they've been through, and Ash hasn't been able to see that Charizard has been struggling. But he points to the battling trio, and he says he really needs it now. Then he puts his hand out and looks down at the ground for what seems like an eternity. Then Ash looks up, and Charizard has rested its head on Ash's hand. At this point, Ash knows that he has Charizard's trust, and he can rely on him to get him through this harsh battle. Charizard takes to the sky, with Ash and Pikachu on its back. The battle is tough, and Ash makes it back to Shamoody Island with the final orb, bringing an end to the battle between Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres. At the end, we see Ash meet with Professor Oak. Oak and Ash talk, and Oak offers a ride back to Kanto. But Ash has to decline, as he still has one more thing to do. But Ash does give the GS Ball to Oak, so that this task is now complete, and Ash moves on to the final leg of his adventures in the Orange Islands. Now, we see Ash, Misty, and Tracy sailing along in the open ocean when Lapras suddenly takes off in the opposite direction and into the events of Viva Los Lapras. This is where we see Ash's Lapras meet up with its school of Lapras, and after stopping the pirates of the Orange Islands, or Johnny Depp, whichever one you prefer, Ash and Lapras say their goodbyes and part ways as Ash heads back to the Kanto region. After about a week, Ash has finally made it back to the Kanto region. Tracy is itching to go to Professor Oak's right away, but Ash tells Tracy he has one stop to make first. They head back to the Fighting Pre-1 Grand Prix gym, and Ash meets up with Anthony. After a brief battle to see how Primeape has progressed, Anthony gives Ash back its Pokeball, and Ash recalls it. Then they decide to move on to Pallet Town. Now we arrive in a tent situation. Ash, Misty, and Tracy arrive back in Pallet. They head to Professor Oak's lab to greet the professor. This is where Tracy starts to get all fanboy over Professor Oak, wanting to be his assistant. Once at Professor Oak's house, Ash gets to see his Pokemon, Snorlax, Rhydon, and Bulbasaur. Oak says Rhydon and Snorlax have adapted well. Ash goes over to see Snorlax, and it just falls asleep. Then Ash tries Rhydon. It's surprisingly open to Ash, even though it had no time with him. It charges at Ash and gives him a big hug to greet it. Oak tells Ash that Rhydon is actually a big softie, but it does get very territorial around people or Pokemon that it doesn't know. Then, Team Rocket attacks. We get the usual exchange with them battling, and Ash using Muck and Kingler to show Professor Oak how far things have progressed in their training. But they ultimately get stopped by Victory Bell's sleep powder and some rubber rings. Anyway, Then Team Rocket tries to snatch all the Pokemon, but they're saved by Gary and his Nidoqueen. Once Team Rocket is cleared out, Gary is thanked by Misty and Tracy and Professor Oak for saving the day, and he is given a bunch of praise for saving them, which he just eats up. Then Gary turns to Ash and starts to question him and his abilities as a trainer. Ash tells Gary that he just got back from the Orange Islands, where he got a lot stronger. Gary asks Ash, did he win? Ash says no. Gary responds, well then, you're still the same loser that left here 2 months ago. This angers Ash, and he challenges Gary to a battle. Gary smirks, then says, sure, it's been a while since I've been slumming it. This angers Ash. Gary chooses Nidoking for the battle. Ash wanted a powerhouse to go against Nidoking, calls for Snorlax, but is passed out. Gary just laughs and makes more fun of Ash. Ash gets more heated, and he gets ready to send in Charizard, knowing that it's finally accepted him, and he knows that it can take Nidoking. But then, Rhydon steps forward. Remember, it doesn't like Pokemon it doesn't know in its territory, and Nidoking is one of Gary's best, so it's always with him. As a result, Rhydon doesn't know it because it hasn't been at Professor Oak's lab. Ash is okay with this, and the battle gets started. Rhydon does have size and power on Nidoking, as it came from an island of giant Pokemon, but that's all it has. After a while, it becomes outclassed by Nidoking and its superior training, and eventually loses. Gary just says, see, Ash? It's the same thing I've said before. You don't train with your Pokemon. As a result, you're weak. You couldn't win the Orange League, and you don't stand a chance in the Indigo League. And then Gary just turns and walks away. Ash just stands there as Gary walks off. Ash then tells Pikachu to come on, and they head off to the mountainside at the back of Professor Oak's property. Misty and Tracy try to follow, but Professor Oak stops them, and then they head inside. After a while, Ash hasn't returned. Misty decides to sneak away to go out and check on him, but she doesn't see him, or, come to think of it, she doesn't see any of his Pokemon. She then heads off in the direction that she last saw Ash head, and after a while, she starts to hear a commotion, and then she sees it, or them. There's Ash, Pikachu, Bulbasaur, Wartortle, Charizard, Primeape, Pidgeot, Kingler, Muck, Rhydon, and even Snorlax, and Ash. All of his Pokemon are all training together. They're all there, firing attacks at one another, dodging, with Ash giving them commands. Even Primeape and Charizard have decided to work together. As a result, they're all in unison. Now you may ask, why is Primeape all of a sudden okay with Charizard? This is a very simple one. Primeape's biggest problem with Charizard was the way it responded to Ash. Once it recognizes that it respects Ash, Primeape would be on board with Charizard. As a result, Charizard would no longer have any beef with Primeape, and the two would respect each other's power. Anyway, Misty's watching. They are all in sync. She has never seen this from Ash before. He has a determination about him, and a newfound unity with his Pokemon. Misty just leaves, confident Ash is on the right path. This training goes on for another week. In this time, Tracy has been accepted as Professor Oak's assistant, and Misty just waits for Ash as he secretly trains every day. Then comes the time when Ash and Misty must head towards the site of the Indigo League, the Indigo Plateau. Ash sets off with his team of 6, Pikachu, Wartortle, Charizard, Primeape, Muck, and his newest choice, to add some diversity to his team, Rhydon. He did learn from his encounters in the Orange Island once he realized that his team was too water heavy. Bulbasaur has been too important to leave Oak's lab for long periods of time, so it has opted to stay behind. And Pidgeot is still helping the Pidgey and Pidgeotto, just in case Fearow and Spearow show back up, because they have, on occasion, a couple of times. Snorlax still eats way too much, and Ash made the choice because Kingler trained with him the whole time in the Orange Islands to leave it behind. Now Ash figures that his team is the most balanced it can be. On the way, Ash has a run-in with Bruno of the Elite Four, who was training in the mountains. Then battles a trainer who had his badges stolen by Team Rocket. Then he meets the Pokemon League president and gets the chance to run the Flame of Moltres to the Indigo Plateau, where he arrives to the site that he has spent the last year plus training for. That's it for this episode. Ash's adventures in the Orange Islands have come to a close, and the Indigo League is upon us. What do you guys think? How do you feel about the way I handled Ash's taming of Charizard? Did I do it better than the anime? Or did I do it worse? How about the battle with Gary and Rhydon's loss? And how about Ash's reignited drive to challenge the Indigo League? Let me know in the comments below. And I'll see you in the next video. Hey everyone. I just wanted to say thank you for your support. If you like the content that I'm providing, please don't forget to subscribe. And also, don't forget to leave a like, as it really helps out with the YouTube algorithm and helps my content get to a bigger audience to help the channel grow. I will see you in the next video.